Okay, good evening. Welcome back to Harvest Moon Farm. My name is Mickey, and tonight we are going to be making some honey garlic steak bites. So we've got here a top sirloin steak, and I had this in my freezer, and I thawed it. Actually thawed it a couple days ago. I was planning to make it over the weekend, and then I got sick, so that didn't happen. So what I'm going to do is just cut this up into 1/2 to 1 inch pieces. I'm going to cut this fat off the outside of it first because I don't want that in my meat, in my dinner. Oops. And then I'll give this to the dog. He'll be really happy about this. So I'm just cutting this up into pieces about this size. The recipe calls for 1 pound. This is meat that I bought from, when I ordered a half a cow from a local farmer. So I don't know how much was in this. I'm guessing it's more than 1 pound, but that's okay. I'll mix up my sauce and things to go on it, and if I feel like it's not enough, then I'll make another batch. I guess I could have weighed this before I started cutting it, but I didn't think of it till just now, so it's too late. Well, maybe not really, but I'm just gonna go with it. But I definitely want this fat off of there. So I'm gonna cut all this up, and I'm gonna put it in this bowl, and then we are going to add some paprika and salt and pepper and just mix that up, and then we'll leave it to the side while we make our sauce. So we are in week 3 of our pantry challenge. I have done pretty well. The only thing I've bought that was not on my actual list of things I was going to buy was some olive oil, and that was because I didn't realize I was completely out, or pretty much completely out when I started this. So I did buy some olive oil. But otherwise, I have just used the vegetables that I bought with my weekly allowance for them, or the vegetables that I had canned or frozen already. So if you guys are doing the pantry challenge or something similar, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'd like to see like what kind of guidelines you set for yourself, how you feel like you're doing, how long you're planning to do it, all that good stuff. I've seen lots of YouTubers who are doing either this 3 Rivers pantry challenge or some other sort of challenge. I watched a video last night where this person has done their challenge for about, I think she said 6 years now, and she just typically does a January challenge. If you guys watched my kind of kickoff video for this, my goal is to do it for January and February. I have enough food in my house I can probably do it until my garden starts producing, but I don't know that I want to go that far. It's one of my plans for this weekend. Hopefully I'll be feeling better, is to get my freezers organized. When we first got our last upright freezer, I sort of organized them when I put stuff away, but I've made so many things since then that's gotten shoved in the freezer and pulled out of the freezer that now they're kind of a mess again. The meat's all cut up, so now I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. This is just to taste, so add whatever you think is going to make sense for your family's likes. Maybe a little more. And a little pepper. And you can either use sweet paprika or smoked. I have smoked, so that's what I'm going to use. And we want to use a teaspoon of that. Actually, I'm going to use a little more because I think I have more than a pound of meat here. And then I'm just going to take a big spoon and just kind of stir that so that the salt and pepper and paprika gets kind of mixed up onto the meat. It doesn't just sit in a big lump on the top. So now we're going to start mixing up our sauce. So we're going to start with 3 tablespoons of low sodium soy sauce. And now my dog wants in. And to our soy sauce, we want to add a 1/4 cup of either water or broth. I have a little bit of chicken broth left in my fridge, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. It looks like I still have some chicken broth left in my fridge. Oops. And then we want to add 4 teaspoons of garlic, and I'm just using my store-bought minced garlic. If you're using fresh garlic, that will be about 4 cloves. And just dump some on the counter. 2, 3, and 4. We're going to add a tablespoon of sesame seed oil. If you don't have sesame seed oil or you don't like it, you can use extra virgin olive oil. And we want also a tablespoon of, oh, it's open. A tablespoon of rice vinegar, or you can use white vinegar if you like. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of honey. And I'm not going to measure it, I'm just going to squeeze it in there and eyeball it. Oh, I might have to warm this up a little more. So I'll go ahead and stir this up a little bit since my honey was not completely liquid. We're going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of ground oregano. And 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And then we're going to whisk that all together, and we're going to set it to the side while we cook our steak. Alright, so I'm going to just whisk this all together. And I'm going to set this to the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my skillet on the stove. And we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. I'm going to use my cast iron skillet, and then we want to let it heat over medium-high until it's very hot. And then we're going to put just half of our meat in at a time because we don't want to crowd it. We want to make sure it gets nice and browned. Starting to sizzle when I put the meat in, so I can go ahead and add the first half. And I'm just going to kind of spread it out while I'm putting it in there. Alright, so we want to let this cook about 2 minutes or so, and then we're just going to turn it all over. We want to cook this until the steak is done. There's so much steam coming off the pan, I can hardly see the meat. Alright, so I'm going to take this first half batch, and I'm just going to take it out of my skillet and put it in another bowl so it's out of my way. And now I need to add a little more oil to this pan. Ooh. Oh, steamy. Now I'm going to put the second half of my batch of steak in here. Spread it out. Alright, ouch. So I've removed all of that steak now. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm going to whisk my sauce back up just a little bit, and I'm going to pour about 1/3 of it now into my pot, into my skillet. We want to scrape up all of those good steak bits, those brown bits off the bottom of our skillet. We don't want to burn our garlic though. And now we're going to add our meat back in. And we're going to pour the rest of the sauce over the meat. And we're going to let this all cook together for another couple of minutes. So we're just letting that sauce kind of thicken up in our skillet and create a nice coating for our steak. It smells really good. And I'm so hungry, I can't wait to try this. Before I started working on the steak, I went ahead and put some rice in my rice cooker. So it's done. So I put rice in the bottom of my bowl and some steak on top of that. And I'm going to put just a little bit of sliced green onion on the top. And some sesame seeds. And we're going to give this a try. Really hot. Ow. Very good. Ooh, I like that. Yummy. Alright, so my husband won't be home for about another hour and a half, and I'm starving now, so I'm going to eat, and he can eat when he gets home. But I'll be back later with another recipe. Alright, so today we're going to work on our next couple of recipes. I'm going to put together the dry ingredients for some protein oat pancake or waffle mix. And then we are going to go ahead and make one batch so we can see how those turned out. So over the last weekend, I tried a couple different versions of this recipe. I played around with the amount of protein powder that I added. I didn't want it to be too vanilla-y, you know, too sweet. and I didn't want it to taste like protein. I wanted them to still taste like waffles. And I came up with what I think is the perfect mixture. They're very lightly sweet. They've got just a really good flavor. The oats give it a nice kind of bulk without being too much. So we're going to go ahead and start mixing those up now. So I need a bowl, I guess, first. Let's see here. All right, so to start off with, where's my, whoops. So what we're putting together here is going to make enough for 4 batches that each make about 2, I think it made 2 full, 4 count waffles. So to start off, I'm going to put 4.5 cups of oats in my blender because I don't like them just whole like this. I feel like it makes the pancakes or waffles too, I don't know, too chewy or too, I don't know, something. So there's 3, 4, but I don't want to remove, I still wanted to have some of that extra kind of bulk from the oats. So I'm just going to put them in my blender and I'm just going to blend them just enough to kind of chop up the oats without turning it really into oat flour. And that's all it took. So some of these, I got a little more floury with this batch. So some of them are ground up a little more and some of them are still more whole. If you pulse it, it's better, but still this will be good. And then we're gonna add to that 4 cups of whatever kind of flour you want. I've got all-purpose flour. You could use whole wheat flour. You could use some other kind of mix of flour if you want. I've got my whole wheat flour out, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and use. So we're going to do 4 cups of flour. Okay. And now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of vanilla flavored protein powder. You could actually make these with chocolate if you wanted to make like a chocolate waffle. You could use the strawberry. It probably tastes better in the waffles or pancakes than it would just mixed and drunk, because I always think the strawberry protein tastes kind of yucky. So I'm gonna take the scoop out first of all. So I have just an organic, vegan, gluten-free protein powder. This was just what I found at my store. And I want a 1/2 cup. About a 1/2 cup of that protein. Then we're gonna add a cup of raw cane sugar. You can add brown sugar, you can add regular granulated sugar, you can add whatever kind of dry sweetener that you want. So there's a 1/2. And there's 1. And then last, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of baking powder. And then all I'm going to do is just whisk all this together. Just to kind of mix it up. And then I'm going to put it in a mason jar for storage. Now, you can just, if you're just keeping this for your own family, well, regardless, you can put it in one big container. I actually might need 2 jars. You can put it in one big container, or you can divide it into 4, and then each one of those will be the 1 serving size. Or the not 1 serving, 1 batch. All right, so I've got a ½ gallon jar here. I'm going to start with that and see how much I can get in here. And since we are going to make some, I'm going to go ahead and take enough for that batch out. So that we want about 2 cups of our dry mix. And then I can see if I can get the rest of this in my jar. So a ½ gallon jar actually holds 3 full recipes. So I'm going to set this to the side, but before I put it away later, I will attach a card or a piece of paper or write on the lid or something for the mixing instructions, but for now I'm just going to set this to the side. All right, so we've got all of our dry mix here. Let me move my blender. So we've got our 2 cups of dry mix. To this we want to add 2 eggs. I'm opening it over this Pyrex dish just in case, since these are my chicken eggs and they're both fine. So pour that in there. And then we're going to add, what did I use? A cup and a half of milk. And I'm just using, I have 2% here. You can use whatever milk, whole milk, skim milk, whatever milk you like. You could probably also use half and half if you like. I've only tried it with just regular milk. And then we need a ½ cup of melted butter. So my sister and brother-in-law had given me, I don't know, either 3 or 4 of these 1-pound blocks of butter that they had gotten from somebody at some point that they weren't going to use. And I think this is my last one, so yay, thanks sister. All right, what did I say? Oh, a ½ cup. So that's the same as 1 stick. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in my Pyrex dish and throw it in the microwave. So, you know, with this butter, it's nice when, you know, if somebody has something that they're not going to use, but you will, it's nice when they give it to you. And vice versa. If you have something that you bought that you're not going to use, or somebody gave you that you decided you don't like or whatever, if you give it to somebody that will use it, that's wonderful, because then nothing goes to waste. All right, so I've got my melted butter here, and I'm going to go ahead, well, mostly melted, and pour this in my other mixture. Now, one thing you don't want to do, I made this mistake when I tested this first batch. Do not use a whisk, because with the oats in there, unless like today I actually ground them up a little more than I intended, but if they're more whole, they're going to stick in your whisk in clumps, and then you have to fight to get them out. So I'm going to use a spoon to stir this, even though normally I would use a whisk. And, you know, other pancake batters, I would use a whisk to mix them up. All right, so I've got my waffle iron here. I'm going to go ahead and get some spray on it. And turn it on to start preheating, and then once that is preheated, then we'll go ahead and put our first bit of batter in there. It might be a little hard to see my oats in here. Like I said, I ground them up a little bit more than I intended to, but you can still see some pieces of, you know, chopped up oats versus oat flour. And that's what I was going for. And this will work for pancakes as well. I'm a waffle person. I like the way waffles get crispy. So typically, if I have a choice, I usually, well, not usually, I always will choose waffles over pancakes because I like them crispy. So when I was testing out these recipes, well, really the only thing I was testing was determining how much protein powder I wanted to use. And my husband only ate one piece. We went to run some errands, and when we came back, we had left the extra waffles on a plate on the counter, and we didn't push them back far enough. And when we came back, the dog had enjoyed them. So these, once they're cool, I'm going to wrap them up and freeze them. Anything that's, well, we're not going to have these for dinner. We're having shrimp and pasta for dinner. So I'm just going to cook this batch just so you guys can see what they look like. If you guys wanted to just make a single batch instead of, you know, the 4 times that you could put in the jar to keep in your storage, you could just use a cup of oats, just under a cup of flour, about 2 or 3 tablespoons of your protein powder, and then I think I used 3 tablespoons of brown sugar and about 2 1/4 tablespoons of baking soda to just make a single batch. And then you'd still use the same, the 2 eggs, the 1/2 cup of butter, the 1 1/2 cups of milk, and mix that all up, and then you could cook those up. And my head is so stuffy, I feel like I'm foggy, so I feel like I'm all over the place today. So I did go ahead and decide, since it's very simple to mix up, our waffle iron's ready to go. I did just go ahead and write the instructions on my lid. So I just put on there 2 cups of mix, 2 eggs, 1 1/2 cups of milk, and 1/2 cup of melted butter. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get our batter in our waffle iron. Alright, so got this batch coming out of the waffle iron. And I'm going to go ahead and put this next batch in. Whenever we have leftover waffles, which isn't very often, let's be honest, but if we have leftover waffles, I will let them cool, and then I'll put them in a Ziploc baggie and we'll put them in the freezer. And then if we want waffles, we pull them out and we can throw them in the toaster, and then they get nice and crispy again. And so that's a really easy way to eat them. You can put them in the microwave, but they'll get kind of soggy, chewy. But if you put them in the toaster, they're great. You can still add syrup, you can add jelly, you can put some fruit on there, whatever you want to do. Uh-oh, I overfilled this one. It's running out the side. All right, so I am going to take a little bite of this one. Very good. You can taste the vanilla, but it's not a really strong vanilla flavor. It's just a little kick of sweetness. I don't really know how else to describe it. And you can feel the bigger pieces of oats in there, but it's not, you know, it's not an unpleasant thing. It's actually, they're very good. And when they've got this little extra sweetness, I don't even need to use syrup on them. I am going to need to clean my waffle iron though. All right, so here is the last little bit of batter. Made just a little cute piece here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off and unplug it so we can start cooling. So that made 2 full pans plus this little bit more. Might have made a little more if I hadn't overfilled that last batch. And they are delicious. So now my husband and I, for dinner tonight, I'm making shrimp and pasta and some green beans, but it is still pretty early. It's not even 5 o'clock. My husband doesn't get home from work until about 7:30 or 8. So I'm gonna wait a little while to start dinner, but when I do, I will bring you guys back with me. So my husband should be home pretty soon, and so I'm gonna go ahead and start our dinner. It's very simple, shrimp and pasta. I've got some water on to boil for the pasta, and I just buy the pre-cooked frozen shrimp. I had it sitting in my refrigerator, and then now that it's thawed, I just went in and pulled all the little tails off. The pre-cooked shrimp come with the tails still on them. So I pulled those off before I start, and then I'm going to put some oil and seasonings in my skillet and start just browning up those shrimp. So I'm going to put some olive oil. I usually put a little bit of basil. It's time to reorganize my drawer of spices again because I can't find anything. Oh, here we go. And then I usually do just a little bit of red pepper flake, not too much. Whoops. And then I'm going to put some garlic in there. Turn my heat on here and just warm this up just a little bit. Let the garlic kind of just start to toast. And then I'm going to pour my shrimp in. The shrimp has been rinsed and drained. When I peel the tails off, I just throw it in a colander so I can just give it a quick rinse. I'm going to do just a little sprinkle of lemon pepper. I'm going to add some salt to my pasta water. And this shrimp is also a little bit freezer burned, which is very disappointing because this shrimp has only been in my freezer a couple of weeks. Or let's see, what's today? I bought it right before the pantry challenge started, so it's been less than 3 weeks. Yeah. So that means it was probably freezer burned when I bought it at the store. And here I've got all of my waffles all bagged up. They're cool now. I put the date on this bag and I just wrote on here that they were protein oat waffles, and then I'm just going to throw those in the freezer, and then when we want a waffle we can just pull the bag out, pull out whatever we want, and warm them up in either the microwave or the toaster. Alright, so then as the moisture starts kind of cooking out of the shrimp from being frozen and some of that garlic, I like to add a little bit of lemon juice. Turn that down and just let that keep cooking. We've got some angel hair pasta here. I'm going to get started in my water. So now that my shrimp is pretty well done, I'm going to switch burners so I can get my pasta on the bigger burner. I'm just going to turn this other one down so it'll stay warm. All right, so my pasta is done. I'm going to go ahead and drain that. And my husband's on his way home, but I'm going to go ahead and make my plate because I am hungry. So I'm going to get me a little bit of pasta. Get that off. Add some shrimp. And then what I'm going to do is just mix all the rest of this together, and then I can put a lid on it and it will stay warm and the pasta won't dry out this way. And then my husband can fix his plate when he gets home. I'm going to set this back here where the burner's not hot, but I want to try that steam in. Oh, it'll fit. There we go. All right, and then I like to add a little bit more lemon juice, usually just to the top of this. I really like this to be very lemony. And then just going to take some of this shredded Parmesan, and I'm just going to sprinkle some over the top, or a lot because I like cheese. Alright, so that's our dinner for tonight. Just a simple bowl of shrimp and pasta. I was going to make some green beans to go with it, but I'm not really terribly hungry, and we do have still some leftover veggies in the fridge that if my husband wants some, he can go ahead and have those. And I think I'll make the green beans with the chicken dish I'm going to be making either tomorrow or the next night. So I just want to say thanks for everyone hanging out with me and watching me cook and talk about what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. If you would like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks.